about ready to get underway here. So welcome to the Rossland Museum and Discovery Center. I'd like to start off the evening by acknowledging that we're gathered here today on unceded Sinixt Tumulao. If you don't know Tumulao, that's all right. It means homeland or territory in the traditional Sinixt dialect. And if you've been to any of our events before, you know we like to take it a little step further and have you guys be able to take something away to share. And that is being able to know that here on Red Mountain, it's actually the traditional name that was known for many years before that, is Comarcan. So if you guys can remember Comarcan, it's a little bit tough, you don't have to do that extra special K in the beginning, but if you can remember that, share it around, you'll be a part of Sinai's resurgence, and a big help to that, and we'll be very happy with you as well here at the museum. Also a little bit of museum housekeeping things before we get rolling. We do have an Easter egg hunt this Saturday coming up right away. So I did hear that there might be an appearance from the Easter Bunny. So if you're have been feeling a little bit hoppy, you might want to get to that one. And then also on Wednesday, coming up next week, we have a Rossland Recollections with Gordon LePage. Going to do a repeat of his ski patrol presentation that he did for one of these other speaker series that we've done. So if you didn't get to see that in the first go, Wednesday at 1 p.m., you won't want to miss that. But I don't want to take up any more of you guys' time with this stuff, because I think the reason we're all here tonight is for a couple living legends here in Rossland. I know we have I think officially a Citizen of the Year here, as well as a living veteran of the Second World War. And of course, just a whole bunch of stories that I'll never be able to live up to. So without further ado, what I'd like you guys to do is do a big round of applause for Kim, Deane, and Lou Corrado.
Yeah, so Lou had a request on the eve of Easter, if we could just start off by saying together the Lord's Prayer. Yeah. Okay. So would you like to lead, Lou?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Good. Bring us snow.
Thank you. So we'll stay seated, I think. So I just want to thank Skylar for the introduction and welcome everyone. Thanks for coming. Is that about the right sound? Yeah. Okay. We're certainly pleased to be here this evening with you all. First, we wanted Lou and I to give a pat on the back, a shout out for the museum, the amount they contribute to our town, all the good works they do, including this speaker series. And we appreciate being invited to take part. And here we are as a result this evening. So, we'll do our best. So our plan is we go back in Rossland to a span of time about 60 to 90 years ago. And this was a period when Rossland was part of major worldwide events. First, the Great Depression, the Dirty 30s, and then that was followed by World War II, 5 years of war, and then the post-war boom, the big economic spike that occurred after the Second World War. And I think it's pretty special this evening to have Lou with us, someone able to go back to tell us firsthand, how things were, 92 years ago and that time. So that is pretty unique, and we're taking advantage of you here, Lou. Anyway, so Lou is 14 years younger than I am. He grew up in the first parts of our story, the Great Depression and the World War II. I was only here for the third part in grades 1 to 12, growing up in Rossland. I'll be mostly the narrator and the prompter, and Lou will provide a lot of the story material. One thing threaded through Lou's life, especially the early life, are sports. And it's pretty much threaded through his family. After Lou's time, Diane Gerace in Trail was a member of his extended family. She was one of the best high jumpers in the world, certainly the best in Canada, and went to the Olympics and Pan American Games, won a silver. And more recently, a grandson played for the Edmonton Oil Kings hockey team, one level below the NHL.
Yeah, Luke Bertolucci.
Beg your pardon?
Luke Bertolucci.
Luke Bertuzzi. Luke. Okay. Anyway, he was one of the top players, and they won the Memorial Cup.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's in the family genes. Anyway, we're going back to begin to the Great Depression, 92 years, 1932. Lou was in grade 1. During the Great Depression, he was in grades 1 to 6. He was in a family of 5, mother, father, older sister, then Lou, and a younger sister. They lived in a house on 5th Avenue, just off Washington Street, above the new building, the new Rossland Yards City Hall building on that slope. And his father worked for the Trail Smelter, and years later retired after 50 years of service. And his father, a bit unusual for that time, owned a car. So he would use it to take people to Trail to work or whatever, and to take the family to Trail or Spokane. Lou was for grades 1 to 6, was in the McLean School. Some of you may remember the nice brick building before the present school. And then the Rossland High, it was, as it was called then, now it was later referred to as the Cook Avenue School, for his grades 7 to 12. He finished grade 12 a year late because of a time spent in the Army in the war. And the Great Depression was notable for shortages, money, goods, food. Now, jobs in the smelter in this area, Rossland Trail, helped ease the effects for a lot of people, including Lou's family to some extent. His father had a job all the way through. But everything slowed down. There was great anxiety and worry in that period. How bad was it going to get? Of course, then, before we got to know the answer to that, the war came along. And the community in Rossland came together sharing and supporting of one another to a great extent. And one thing important in Lou's life, in addition to their house on 5th Avenue, the family, the grandparents, had a working farm on the edge of Happy Valley, quite on the upper edge, actually quite close to where Lou and Maureen live today. The grandparents' farm was a godsend in the Depression, providing food for his family and many, many others. Just to add, the term working in describing a working farm is a bit of an understatement. There's an enormous amount of physical effort involved, and this farm was no exception. And so much of Lou's time and energy was absorbed by the grandparents' farm. He claims he was always given the toughest jobs, even as a young lad. Okay, so we've got ourselves set back in the Depression. Lou asked for a few prompts from me here and there, so that was my role. So maybe you would start with kids in the neighborhood playing in the backyard, chestnuts and marbles, and did you want to hold the mic?
We always find something to do. We're very poor, but well looked after. I worked in my mother's garden.
I know you played much chestnuts and marbles
Oh yes,
and ski jumps.
so we were always active, but even back then, there was no major ski hills at that time. And the winter time, when we come home from school, every day we'd build a little jump. And we jumped we practiced jumping every day. That was the start of the skiing. Then the first Red Mountain Ski Club came in. It was right at the Block Motel. If you go to the Block Motel now and you look straight up on the right-hand side facing in, that's where the hill was. It's just a shoot down. And on there was also a jump. So you had the jump and the ski hill.
How about the rope tow?
Not there. The rope tow came later.
So you basically climbed up and skied down multi times?
That's right. Now there's 3 ways to get out to the ski hill, that ski hill. You went on the present road, or you went on the other side of the reservoir, or you went where the houses are along this top. You go up that way, and the icy tunnel road, and you'd back up there and then ski down to the left. There was great jumpers there. There's Martin Johnson of Rossland. There's the 2 brother McKays from Nelson, Trignora, and Buddy Storchy came later, and we had quite a good jump team. So while I'm talking about jumps, the old Red Mountain had several jumps. The first one was on the face of Monte Cristo. You should look up Washington Street on that hill. It came off that. That was the first jump of the local area. That was before my time, but I saw the area where it was. Then the next one was down behind the old high school, down South Belt. And that was the Olsenroth Field. And that was for up till we got into the World Cup word. And then the third jump was between the lift line and red on the present lift line. That was the last jump.
One thing you mentioned, you mentioned Washington Street and sledding down Washington Street from the top where that jump was.
Well, part of our day 10 was we played marbles. You wouldn't understand the marbles. We had fun doing it. That took that season. And then there was the winter time. We'd go up to the top of Washington Street and would run down the hill. As you went down, if a car happened to come, we'd yell, "Car! Car!" That's funny, I know, but that's how it was. And we'd end up either on the main street or we'd go past the down over Columbia Avenue down to Lower Belt. And some of us got brave enough to go right down trail. But the trouble with that is you had to walk back.
Those are the days when you get like the top of Washington down to Thompson across Columbia. Good jump there. Quite the run. One was, it talked about spending money, scavenging under the boardwalks. So you had some money to spend.
Well, I guess we were poor, but we were very lucky that my dad and my relatives came to Rossland Trail. And my grandfather was a miner, and he was at Butte, Montana. And between Butte and Rossland, he would take gunslingers, pack their guns into Red Mountain. That's a true story. We first came to Ross in 1893. That was our first family. Then from there, my great uncle through the family came to Trail, and he was the yard foreman for the tracks. And the year my grandfather and grandmother were here, she brought, I would say, 75 or 80 people from Whitley as citizens. But there was a price for it. When they came here, they had to work on the farm. Then we would get them a job at Cominco at the time, which police was God sent. They were good for the whole area. They were our backbone. I won't say too much because you all know they were a big help.
Okay, I'm back to the scavenging, because you told me once you collected some money, you spent it in the store.
Where did you get your spending money?
Well, first of all, in Rossland, the main street, Washington Street, you know what it is now, they had a boardwalk there, and all 2 by 12 boards. But there was an empty place underneath. Well, the kids at that time, we were a little cheap, I guess. But that's where we got our spending money. We'd go under there and find as much as $1, 1 cent. And then we'd just go up to the top of the hill, which was the handy store, and the other end was Hunt's store, and then the Orwell in the center, and we usually get a soda. That's a pop with ice cream in it and stir it around. And that was my spending money for many years. So I did it, I was cheap, but I did it a long time.
And I guess the other were the movies and matinees every Saturday at the theater.
Yes, it was 10 cents to go to the movies. There was 2 shoe shops, one on each side of the shop.
Of the theater.
Romeo and Deane Ferrero.
On each side of the movie theater.
That's right.
It was a pretty fancy theater.
It was beautiful.
Beautiful
Yeah.
theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one at that time were sports. Lou began to get into organized sports when you were, I guess, about 10 or 12 years old. But the town was crazy about sports, always. And at one time, in a very competitive, high-performance league, the Rossland Miners team. But one year, in 1938, the Trail Smoke Eaters did very well. They went off to the Allen Cup, and you saw them off.
Yes, the dad took us down, and there was 10,000 people there then,
10,000.
just to see them off. Trail went back to Cornwall, I think, just for the Allen Cup.
Speak into your mic.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Better?
just,
Yeah. Yeah, the Allen Cup. So huge crowds saw this team off, and they won the Allen Cup in 1938. And you listened on the radio.
That's the closeness I had with, it was good times because it was close with my dad. We did it together. It needed 2 of these redos, so it looked like a horseshoe.
Maybe hold the mic a little closer. Yeah. Sorry.
Like a horseshoe. And we would be there listening to we watched all the playoffs that way, or any sports event, or any favorite programs. That's all they had to do. I was too young to drink. I never did.
The other thing, of course, in that time, Lou told me, people walked and walked and walked everywhere. Even to trail and back wasn't a big deal, if you had to. And there was a bus and a train, but everybody walked. And you were telling me on the farm, delivering the milk, and it wasn't in a vehicle.
First of all, I'll tell you, my Uncle Ed and my grandfather, they shoveled coal at Cominco, and they walked down to shovel the coal and walk back. They go down Columbia, the water hole, and down that way. They've done that for 5 years. Then they're in the dairy business, so they one of the first dairy farmers that delivered milk in a Cominco sacks. They're made down there. And I helped on that and walked through those fields where the snow was like that. You'd stink, you'd drop right into the ground. But they're always good to us. They give us $1 or $2 once in a while. But you obeyed your parents and grandparents knows this, so you just done what you were told to do.
And the milk was in glass containers?
Glass bottles.
Glass bottles?
Quarts and half quarts.
I can imagine the weight. Yeah.
And what they do is after they milk the cows, they get me go out and get the cows first on off season. But what I really was rewarding was they had a milk shed, had running water and cold water from the mountain. And they put the milk in there, and you get a bottle of like that, you get 3/4 of that be cream. So you get butter, and we'd have drinks. There was a lot of good times in those times, although we got more things now. But they had a lot of good things then too. We were so close.
That was one of the
I get
treats.
mad sometimes, though. I always got the tough job.
That's his story. Sticking to it.
They have in Happy Valley, there was a recluse, and there was Ted Cox, the city foreman, and Ruel. These are all the people. And Ozeroff lived down there. He was a construction man. And they all worked hard. The only thing I don't remember is that Cominco orchard. It's still there now, all those trees. I don't know when that came. So it was well before my time.
Can you hear at the back? Are we loud now? Okay, good. Where the mic is going round and about a bit. We'll do our best. Okay. Another one, going to the hockey games, the Rossland minor hockey games as a young kid, and you didn't always pay to get in.
I'll say one more thing about the milk. In milk, everybody got their milk by delivery. It wasn't at the stores. And there was the Drakes, the Dugans, the Smiths, the Vedders, the Dugans. Did I say that?
Yeah.
So it wasn't for one person. They all worked hard.
Good. Okay, the hockey arena.
Well,
Getting into the hockey games.
the old arena was facing the way it is now. But it was quite old. It was old when I was a young boy.
Okay.
But somehow it was there natural or put there. There was a hole around the center ice on the south side or east side. I never ever paid to get into the ice. All the kids sneaked in through that gate. But they did tear that rink down and built an outdoor rink alongside, facing east to west. And that was for quite a few years.
Okay. So maybe we'll move on to the war years. So now Lou is going into high school, grade 7. And the big thing then, he's really now beginning to get into sports. And he kind of lucked out in that a man in town called Ed Walters, you got the name right, sort of led a gang of young boys, and they built and looked after a hockey rink, and the players all did the work, including cleaning off the snow in the winter. And then down in Patterson, they built a ball field. And this is when you were in your teenage years and playing actually fairly good ball.
King George Park, it's what they call it now,
Can you just hold on?
but it was very bumpy. And our job was, we went down and took all the bumps off. So we had shovels, the turf off, cleaned the gutter in this and put it down. We made a playing field. Rossland Chiefs and Rossland.
The name of the team.
Yeah.
So you played in a league at
We
that
had a
time?
league, yes,
At that time?
yes. We were Americans and,
Okay,
Wow.
yeah. And the same with hockey.
yes.
Lots of hockey teams.
Yes, the league kept on Rossland in Walter's race.
Yeah.
He gave all that free time. A great man. We're so lucky, you know. We had great people in hockey like that, and we had Red Mountain. There was that, including your father, high Cominco people that
Built it.
stole, built Red Mountain, the first Red Mountain. Thank God for them. Let's give them a hand, eh?
Yeah, so you're now into beginning your athletics with those sports and building your own rink. That must have been quite the effort. The level rose. Someone made a remark when you're beginning to play more, your father, from other sources I heard, was always extremely smartly dressed. And Lou said he had, his brother in Ontario was a tailor, and he had 11 suits, all well fitted. But apparently he couldn't stand to watch Lou play. He got all tense.
Yeah, I might see him there, taking over the boards, and I'd never not see him anymore. Then I found out that this is when I was playing with the smoke eaters. He was over the union having a glass of beer. And that's, he saw very little of our games. Pat me in the back, good game. And another, we had one accident going to Spokane, Terry Kavanaugh, and the straight stretch outside of Northport. He went over the bank, and that's the only accident we had.
Oh, with your vehicle?
It was yes.
Okay.
And to Kimberley, we first used to go to Nelson, and cross the ferry, and go to Creston. While we were by there's an airport there on the other side of Preston. Our trainer shot a deer. Well, we thought, oh, good boy, that's all we thought of it. But when we come back from Kimberley, he threw a big party for fans and hockey players. He cooked the whole deer. He was a good cook.
Cooked the whole thing up?
That's how close everything was then. Not so personal, but and we're so fortunate. We had such good skiers, such good hockey players, such good people. That we never felt the pinch like they had done in other places. And a race for trail.
Okay, the other one is Hunter Brothers Store downtown. You didn't have enough to do, so you got a job at the store after school.
Well, before I go into that, Hunter Brothers was the store in Rossland. When you come from work or you come downtown, you always walk through Hunter Brothers. It had a hardware, shoe store, several departments, groceries. I worked in the hardware in the shoe department.
Yeah, you told me your grand pay was $4.70.
$4.70 for 5 years before and after the war.
You worked there. The other one, it was famous for that money trolley system. Do many of you remember that?
They had a trolley system, a little cup on it, and you write out your bill and the money, put it in, and you pull it down, and you go to the office. And Mark Kent was give you the change or give you hack and send it back to you. The three managers were Ira Edwardson Hardware, Patty Dugan, the grocery, and Henry Singer in the shoe department.
Yeah, Ed has Lou has a remarkable memory for names. I can't believe it. He can reel them off, and most of us can't remember a month back. But anyway.
Now going down the street, it was the Bank of Montreal, which was the main thing. There wasn't a credit union. And next door to it was Burag Jewelries. She was a Timothy little thing. He was never in there. He was a car dealer. And then there was Woodman's Store. Where's that coffee shop? What is it?
Clancy's is now.
Clancy's, yeah.
Now it's the Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Next to Clancy's was Davies, and then a pool hall, and then Urquhart's drugstore. That's the first one I remember. J.C. Urquhart, they had it was my favorite place. They had a ice cream bar.
The interesting thing in the war years, the two key words we got was rationing, first gasoline, and then I guess all of them,
Green,
butter, and
yes.
tea, coffee, butter, sugar, what have you. And then the other leading up to the next topic is conscription. And so apparently Lou said everyone got the letter. I don't quite know, we didn't ever research this to find out exactly how it works. Because I guess there were a lot of exemptions made for this area because the trail smelter was critical to the war effort. So, but those who didn't have an exemption, including Lou, got his letter. So when you were in grade 11, just after grade 11, you and your friend Dick decided to have one last adventure. So I can lead in. So off they went to the top of Old Glory, and backing up one step. So Old Glory, someone got the bright idea during the war to put this Met station on top of Old Glory, which stands up all by itself, way up there. The weather is amazing, the winds, the works. But over 2 summers, 42 and 43, they built a house, basically, a sturdy house. And from 44 to 68, it was manned full-time by someone who sent in weather reports. So Lou said, how did you find out about this being built? You know, he's just a teenager in Rossland. And apparently Wilf Gibbard owned a farm near his parents or grandparents, and he heard about it from Wilf. So he and this Dick decided in a November day, worst month of the year, and off they decided to go to Old Glory. So if you want to relate, leaving house at 3 in the morning. You want to hold? I'll hold the mic for
We
you.
left Rossland, and we went not on the roadside, but on the other side there was a trail, because it was a little shorter, on the reservoir. And we hit up to, it was sort of a half-ass trail that took you up along Squaw. Then we went up grade, along the ridge, curved up and right along. And then we could see the water hole down, so we skied down to the water hole. And we thought we were gonna go straight up, but if you notice that place, it's pretty steep. So we decided we went back down south again and come up the back and to the top. And we were there for 12 days. We got fogged in. But it had its rewards. We had a phone to which we could phone back to Rossland and talk to our parents. But we had steaks, chocolate bars, stuff I never had before. 12 days we just, then we had to put an end to it because I had to go in the army. And the sun was shining, and we come down that day. And by the way, I'll tell you about the equipment. I had a pair of skis, wood, and it harnessed two little plastic aluminum plates, wire back here. You probably know the harness. That's all I had, and bamboo. They were higher than me. And on our way down, Dick and I took off, and Dick wanted to highball it. And on the east slope of Old Glory, he took off. But the sun was shining, he got blind. And we're lucky that we didn't start a slide or that we even got back. What we did, we climbed up and went over the ridges and down grade, Long Squaw, what you call Long Squaw, the hole in the wall. And coming back, we come down, reversed the way right down to town. And the next day I went to the army. I just made it in time. And CPR took me all the way to Vancouver, a little mountain. That's where I thought, I guess 20 doctors, and I passed. And some people didn't pass, and they have to go and work at a place where it's make more material. Like my brother-in-law, he come from Fort Francis. He had trouble with his legs, so he got a job in Cominco, and that's how they worked it. But we were fortunate. Trail's so fortunate at Rossland.
Where did you go in the war? Like when you?
Well, I was supposed to be in the war. I went to Wisconsin for basic training. It was very cold, 40 below. And then
Mike, is that sort of?
I wonder if it wouldn't be better on the stand and just.
I just get
Yeah.
And
I just wonder why it was acting up.
And Calgary was even colder per yard with Fairbanks. Oh, it was cold. We had no hot water, and in the morning when you come out of your tent, that's where you lived, you went for your coffee. That was the first thing you wanted. I had a lot of experiences in there. Worked hard. When I was sort of a small guy, I was. we'd have to go on a training run. This was at the end of our training, advanced training. You had full pack, 70-pound rifle, and you had a run. And something happened in the crew, the platoon, and Sergeant Hoggs made us lead the team and had us run another mile with full equipment. So when we got back to the base, this big guy, he's 6'3", sort of a yappy guy, he would start pounding on me, saying, "Why did you move that we had to run all that? Why, I didn't do a thing." Well, it ended up in a fight. Poor guy, eh? And another thing in advanced training, to pass your advanced training, I know you're not interested, but you had to crawl on your full pack, crawl on your stomach, and walk a field from here to the end of the building. And that was 16 inches high. If you went above it, you'd get hit by a bullet. That's how you passed your advanced training.
Yeah, if you survived.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it.
Well, just, I think, well, I could relate that at the end, so once he was trained, down to Vancouver Island. Of course, the European War had ended, so now it was just Japan left. So Vancouver Island, several spots there, and then basically the atomic bomb was dropped and the war was over. And you came home and took grade 12.
That's right.
But one adventure there, you were in the, now that would be 94, 45, 46. Red was built in 1947. That was its first year of operation. So in 1946, they had the last Grey Mountain grind. And you were in that.
Yes, I was in the last grind. I had the misfortune, I did tell you, I lost my ski. But I did finish it. So I didn't do too well. But it was in pretty good shape. I could have been done better. We'll say so anyway.
Maybe describe the event you, so in the morning you hiked up from town.
In the morning, you get downtown, unless you somehow got up there, and you'd walk up the east side of the reservoir, and there was some kind of a trail up the face of Red. And then you went along Squaw, which was a narrow trail to the lower part of Gray. Then from Gray, you went to the top of Gray, along Kirkup and along the ridges, and you looked down the mountain. You see the water hole at the bottom. So that was our next point.
Okay, at the Grey Mountain grind, you just went to the top of Gray.
Oh yeah, I got the
Then turned around.
That's right, yeah.
So then you.
Sorry, I got mixed up there.
Well,
I'm entitled to it.
well, looping back to the Old Glory epic, I mean, that's, by my measure, 16 miles from his house. I think it was 14 miles from the ski lodge, once it was built. Because later years, the ski hill was there, so the people hiking to Old Glory in the winter would start at Red. They wouldn't have to start in town. So that was just an epic trip on old wooden skis, no skins, and you have to herringbone or sidestep or whatever. It just shows just how tough people were then, walking everywhere, doing all this physical work. They were tough. Anyway, so whenever he mentions that epic along the ridges all the way to Old Glory, boy, that, especially in November, the snow is just arriving, it's soft. It's about as tough as you can get it. The days are short, it's going to be dark. Anyway, but the Grey Mountain grind is interesting, so I guess you went at an appointed time you started, 1 minute apart. And the fastest racers, I think, took 30 minutes or so, believe it or not.
Hard to believe.
From the top of Gray right down to the main street of Rossland. Trignora, and the fast, there were 4 or 5 really fast ones, but still amazing they could do that. So that was the wind up. And after that, we're just keeping a bit of an eye on the time here. So now we're after the war. Lou now is into, for about 15 years, I call it his sports years. He played professional hockey with the Smoke Eaters in Trail, the Kimberley Dynamiters in Kimberley for a while. Played professional baseball right up to almost the major league level in some games. And then curling for a top level curling team. So I don't know if you want to speak to, in those days hockey was a little different than it is today. You were telling me then the equipment was all pretty heavy, and the game was slower.
You couldn't check within 5 feet of the
Well,
boards.
yeah.
You couldn't check within 5 feet of the boards. Not like now, it's murder.
But they used to have these great trips. He mentioned one, because we didn't have any highway connections in those days. To Kimberley, you had to go over the Kootenai Lake Ferry. Took pretty much of a day to get all the way there. Spokane was a favorite place. And your team was connected to Uncle Joe's.
Well, first of all, say how the team came. Spokane was coming into the league. It was at the time, it was Trail Kimberley, and originally Rossland, but he dropped out.
Okay, it's Nelson,
Nelson, yes.
Yeah. And then Spokane.
Then Spokane come to the league, but they didn't have enough players. So they made arrangements with Reedy Moore was the manager. He lived in Rossland, but he started a team in Spokane. He had 6 players. I was one of them to play for Spokane. So that was my start there. Then the next year I played 6 years for the Smokies.
Right. You might mention in the first game in the Cominco Arena. You were there.
Yes, I'm the only one living now, I understand. In the Cominco Arena. Cominco built that. They built that arena for us. It used to be a ball field there and a nurse's residence, which we all knew about. That's so funny. Carry on. And Trail had 6 garages at that time. And the hospital was right across the street. And the Legion was, and the swimming pool was right on next to the nurse's residence.
The center, okay. Yeah, so that was those years, of course. In those years, so much happened after the war. Aside from the sports in Rossland, the town just exploded. We got a new high school with all the bells and whistles. In those days, the school system was based in a region, and because we had the tax base, the schools in Trail and Rossland were everything. Gym, auditorium, the works. The 2 arenas were built in Rossland and Trail. Trail got a bridge, and then of course we got the highways, finally. Highway 3 was built from Grand Forks to Castlegar, and a few years later to Selmo and Creston. And amazingly, we got Highway 3B. Because if you look at a map of the highway system of BC, 3B really isn't all that vital. And somehow, and there's a story there, I think Harry the Fay played a big role. We got 3B, all built in this boom after the war. Trail got their bridge. Everything was just going full bore. Cominco expanded the trail operations, maybe even doubled. It reached their peak in that period. Hiring people, great apprenticeship programs, so good, so many people left school early and went into apprenticeship programs and actually had led very good lives if you worked at a good wage for all those years. pretty soon you had what you needed in terms of a vehicle and a summer place at Christina and whatever. So it was quite the thing in those times to see all that happened. TV came in. One of my recollections was World Series. In those days, the whole place just shut down. It was amazing. Almost everyone, I guess, seemed to, or enough people, even the schools affected. And so we all listened to the World Series games in the early 50s, and then TV arrived. And I guess that was a real game changer, bringing people inside. So that was the main. So that was mostly what we had. Did we miss anything, Lou? In terms of stories that we wanted to highlight? I think we got everything. Are there any, maybe do you have any questions that we touch on, anything, any areas of special interest that we missed? Quite the time. Okay.
Can you tell a little bit about starting up the ski hill? Do you know much about that?
Oh, well, we decided if we did the ski hill, that would need another evening. But yes, well, I was young, but I followed my father around while he was totally involved. But really, that is another story almost. That it, when I mentioned the change, I should have mentioned that, of course. In addition to the highways and the schools and the hospitals, the Red Mountain thing was huge. It really changed the town. Someone made a comment at something else here at the museum. It seemed to pull the town together. Before, the town they felt was sort of stratified socially. You know, the managers and the professional people and the lawyers and the doctors. But when the ski hill came in, you were judged more by how you skied. I don't think Rossland ever changed after that. And the demographics in Rossland up until now we're all a little worried, I think, the changes that are happening, but have been just amazing to have the range of incomes and all these low-income people, but very spirited, very energetic, add a huge amount to the town. And we benefited from all of that for all these years. It's been quite exceptional. Basically starting with the ski hill, and then this 3D has been quite an asset, as a just opens up the playground up the highway for everybody. And it's led to this Rossland lifestyle, which, for better or for worse, I guess, is others are waking up to it. And here we are, seemingly in a bit of another big change. We still don't know how it's all going to turn out yet. Yeah.
I could mention one thing
You need the microphone.
I could mention one thing. We had 3 fires in town, all in the 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the Urban Hotel, the Anglican Church, and the Masonic Hall. And all, I forget the boy, I don't want to mention his name. Why one boy started the fireball place 3 places.
Oh, really?
Yes. You don't remember that?
I remember the fire. I didn't know there was a culprit.
That was, yes.
Okay.
They kept it quiet because
It was the same with McLean School. That was vandals got in, young kids, and did so much damage. It wasn't worth repairing.
yeah.
So these darn fires are a nuisance.
And the McLean School,
Like again,
the McLean School, sorry. There was 3 McLean schools. My mother went to where the French immersion class is now. That's the 2nd McLean School, which I went to. And if you go up on that little hill, on the top of the hill, going north, that's where my mother went to, the 1st McLean School. Not too many people remember that.
but the second McLean School, the big brick building, was there for your years.
All my years, yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Hey Lou, when you did your 12-day trip to Glory, Did you pack in all those steaks and?
No, I should have brought back with us. Where were we gonna pack it?
Actually, the reason they happened was that the Old Glory crew were out of ration, didn't have to pay any attention to rationing. So they had all the goodies.
They had all the goodies. There's no,
And who packed them up?
Was that Dick Marcuzzi you were talking about?
or
Was it Dick Marcuzzi? You mentioned Dick.
you Dick Marcuzzi.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It started
you do Dick.
No.
No.
Okay, well, we'll wind it up then. Thanks, everyone, for this, for coming.
All right, well, I just want to say a big thank you. That was such an incredible presentation, so I know we just did it, but one more round of applause for these incredible gentlemen. Thank you so much. It really was an honor to have you guys up here to be able to not only share your stories, but even just be able to have your presence up here at the museum. It's really why we have these events in the first place, so it means a whole lot to us. As I said, we're wrapping up for the evening, so if you guys like, we do still have some food, I believe, left over there. Anything that's left over, clear it out. It helps us out some. And otherwise, don't miss our Easter event. And next Wednesday's Boston Recollections. And thank you guys so much for coming out here tonight.
Very well.
Well done.